Okay guys, I'm going to show you a video on how to glue your box together. So the last time we test fit the pocket holes and the butt joint. So we got those screwed together and we're going to do a dry fit before we glue it up. So I'm going to use two different band clamps just to show you the two styles and so you know how to operate them. And so the first one is this Bessey band clamp. So there are a couple of arrows here. Those arrows tell you which direction you're going to either turn the handle or pull your slack. So this arrow right here tells us up, so we're going to pull this one up, and this is how we get enough slack to get around the box. All right, now with this clamp, we have this metal buckle, and we have this big contraption of a handle here. So we want to make sure that both of those things are either on your back or your front, just so they're on one of the long sides. This particular box, it's not really big enough for this handle and the buckle to be on your side. So we don't want that buckle to smash your corner or your miter or anything like that. So we just get them both on the same side. It works easiest if it's with you as opposed to on the opposite side. Now we can operate it nice and easy. We also want to make sure that the handle, the crank handle here, is sticking up. If it's upside down, it's really hard to get to when it's down on the table. So just make sure you have the clamp oriented correctly. All right, so now I have way more slack than I need, so I'm going to take this handle and crank it in the direction of the arrow. So there's a little arrow right here. So pay attention to that and make sure you're turning it the right way. All right, now it's pulling that in exactly from the same spot that we pulled it out from. So you may need to shift the band clamp around a little bit as you're tightening this up. Now this is not going to get tight. This is still going to have a lot of slack in it, okay? This is just to get it snug. We can still position this band. We want this to be in the middle of the box. And now we're going to take this handle and start to tighten this handle. And this is going to get super tight. And now that we have pressure on here, okay, now we can really see how our joinery is going to fit together. Make sure we don't have any gaps in the rabbet. Make sure we can position our miter correctly. Now the ones that we have screwed in, that's where they're going to be. So if you screwed them in and the boards are uneven, you may come and see me and see if there's something we can do to fix those joints there. We can't just manipulate the clamp and get those to fit because they're screwed in with mechanical fasteners. All right, so here I have a little bit of a gap, so I'm just going to push that in where my rabbet goes. And it went in nice and tight. Look at my miter joint. My miter joint looks pretty darn good. No gaps there. So this means that when I put glue on this, it should fit nice. So I already have my glue. I have my bucket with my sponge and my water in it. I have my drill with a Phillips bit and the long square drive bit for my Kreg pocket hole screws. And then I'm going to actually use this when I glue it up just to show you the different clamping styles, because you might use this one or you might use the Bessey clamp, okay? So I just want you to get both lessons there. All right, so I loosen up my handle and now I can pull me a little slack out and then I'm going to wrap this up. Since I'm not going to use this, I'm going to just go ahead and put it off to the side. Okay, so when you're done with this, you want to wrap it up all the way. It should leave you a little bit of a loop like this, and this is what you're going to hang it on the clamp rack back here. Okay, so first things first, I need to remove my screws on both sides. It doesn't matter what order you do this in first, but you cannot put it together and then put your screws in, okay? The drill won't fit in there to get your pocket hole screws. So you can't glue up those corners, you have to glue up those corners of the screws first. So we're going to take these apart, put glue on them, put them back together, and put the whole thing together with the band clamp on it. Okay, so what I see a lot of people doing is not allowing themselves enough space. When you have a glue up, you want to make sure you have plenty of workspace so that you can lay your tools down without losing them and you can manipulate things around. You don't have two people, one on either side of you, cramping you, and you only have a real small workspace and you can't move your stuff around. So Make sure you can spread out a little bit and have plenty of workspace. Now, since I have my Phillips bit in, what I'm going to do to save a little bit of time is I'm going to put glue on the end of my back, and then I'm going to put my screws right back in. And then I don't have to constantly switch bits. Okay, that's what kind of glue we're looking for there. Now, we don't want it to run all over the place, okay? So I'm going to put this on there right away. And I'm going to put my screws in. Just so that's a little bit easier to get started. Okay, so now I have some glue already squeezing out. For right now, all I'm going to do is just wipe it with my finger and wipe my finger on that sponge on the inside. I have glue squeezing out on the inside. That is where I really want to make sure I get the glue out of. I can't sand that corner because it would require me to kind of sand across the grain and get in that corner. So, since I can't take it apart anymore now there's glue on it, I'm going to take this sponge and I'm going to wipe, and I'm going to wipe, and I'm going to wipe, and then I'm going to wipe and scrub and wipe and scrub and wipe and scrub. Because now I don't have glue on there, squeezing out on the inside, that I will have to sand later when it's dry. Glue is harder than the wood when it dries. So if you really didn't like sanding before, you're really not going to like sanding that glue, okay? All right, so right now I don't really have any glue on there, so I'm going to set this to the side. I'm going to switch out my bits. Now, glue has about a 10-minute setup time, so I'm moving a little bit quick because I only have so much time before I'm not going to be able to move my boards anymore. And I want to make sure I have all my clamps clamped where I want them while the glue is still wet and my setup time is still there. Now, I put a little too much glue on that first one. That's a little bit better representation of how much glue we want. Okay, same thing. I got a little glue. I'm going to wipe off with my finger. And then I got glue on the inside. That's the real enemy, is the glue on the inside of the box. Bring that sponge out and then wipe and scrub and turn and get the clean section of your sponge. And just make sure there's absolutely no glue on there whatsoever. Okay? Okay. I do have a little bit of glue that's squeezed out on the table. Before I go to set my board back down, I'm going to wipe that wet glue up because I don't want glue just everywhere smeared all over my box. So you need to make sure that you're kind of keeping your area clean from glue so that we don't get glue everywhere. All right, now I'm ready for my miter and my rabbet. My miter is pretty easy. I'm going to take this, I'm going to put a line of glue on there. See how much glue? And I'm just going to smear that on my other miter. So now I have glue on both of those surfaces. Now for my rabbet, I'm going to put glue on the bigger surface, about that much. And I'm going to use my finger to smear it there, and then I'm going to spread it onto the shoulder part of my rabbet. So I want glue on both of those edges there. Okay. And I always wipe my fingers off because if you got glue in your fingers and now you're touching the board, now you're going to have fingerprints of glue everywhere you've touched your board. And again, sanding glue is a lot more difficult than sanding the board. Okay. Now I'm ready for my other game plan. Okay, I have two little wings right here. Okay, these are cam locks. The one that's got the band, the end of the band, that one stays locked. You're not going to touch that. The handle, I'm going to loosen all the way until it is all the way up at the top. Okay, so now I'm bottomed out up here. All right, And now I'm going to use this other wing, or this other cam lock, and I'm going to loosen it up. And then I can just start to pull my slack out. I may need to pull this down, give me a little slack off of the wheel or the spool, and then I can start pulling this out. It doesn't matter, now your handle has this little corner block on here, and we have 3 other corner blocks. So 4 corners, 4 corner blocks, so these are going to go on all your corners. It doesn't matter which one goes on which corner. I like to start with all my corner blocks down here at the bottom, making sure that none of them are twisted. Turn this to the side so you can see what I'm doing here. So now that they're all at the bottom of the box, and none of them are twisted, I'm going to pull that extra slack with my spool here. I'm going to pull that real tight, and then I'm just going to hold it here by the handle while I take my other hand and I close that other cam lock, that other wing. Okay, so now it can't get any looser, and I'm going to raise this up to the center of the box so my pressure is even, and then start tightening the handle up. And this is where it gets really tight. Now I've seen some people that have not bottomed this out and loosened it all the way before putting it around here. And what happens is you run out of threads on this handle. And then it does not put even pressure on the box, and it damages the clamp. All right, so I'm running out of work time here, so my box is starting to get really tacky, meaning that glue is really starting to stick where it doesn't want to allow me to slide those boards. It's just really stuck. So I want to make sure that I get everything fit exactly how I want it. Now I've got a little bit of a gap right here in my rabbet. Okay, so when I push on it, it just springs back away. I planned ahead. I have a clamp ready to go. So this is just a regular F-style bar clamp. We've used these before. We're going to take this and we're going to clamp it right here where that gap is and tighten that down. No more gap, okay? You cannot have too many clamps, okay? I could put clamps all over this thing as long as I'm not putting too much pressure where I starve the joint and squeeze all the glue out, okay? So I just want to make sure there's no gaps. Gaps are bad. Okay, so now I have my name all over this box, okay? So now I'm going to leave these 2 clamps on there again for at least 30 to 45 minutes. I can't take them off right away, because that completely defeats the purpose. Then we'll get this gap back here, we'd get a gap over here. The only 2 corners that would be right would be the ones that have the screws in it, which are the clamps, okay? So now I'm gonna set this on the front of the room underneath the whiteboard over there, and then when I come back next time, or in 30 to 45 minutes, I can take my clamps off.